Hi everyone, it's Paul. I'm back and welcome to the video for day 4 of the 2022 Cheltenham Festival. A couple of hours since the last race here on the Thursday. We ended up having a decent Thursday in the end, didn't we? Bob Ollinger, we got to be honest, was incredibly lucky. Galloping Deschamps had that in the bag, amazing round of jumping, but that's racing. It happens. We've seen it at the last flight of hurdles or fences so many times. The festival, the likes of Benny Dejeur, Annie Power, the list goes on of last fence drama. Interestingly enough to take out of it, obviously Galloping Deschamps is fine, which is the main thing. But Rachel Blackmore, the jockey on Bob Ollinger, said she was never happy at any point. He never travelled at any point, and he didn't feel like the same horse. Ruby Walsh also noted something on the TV about his head carriage and maybe a problem with the wind. And I've got to be honest, he's a lot better. I think Galloping Deschamps could be amazing, but Bob Ollinger was a lot better than that, but we still got the win. Sometimes you've got to take it whatever way it comes, don't you? Alaho was imperious. He's incredible. I'd love to see him step up to 3 miles. I've got to be honest. 2 mile doesn't suit him. He showed that at Punchestown last year. I'd love to see him go for the Gold Cup, but depending on what Aplutar does on Friday, I can't see that happening. Cheveley Park putting 2 in there. We got the World Hurdle winner as well. Florian Porter did it amazing. The rain overnight really sealed his chances, but it was a brilliant ride by Mullins, and no, that was a really good win. Great price as well at 5 to 1. I was very happy with that. The last few races went a bit out of control. Do not write off Dino Blue though. You'll remember a horse called Epatons was a short price for that race and didn't do anything. And a year later, won the champion hurdle. Not saying Dino Blue's going to do it, but you can't put a line through it. Anyway, back on to the more important one, which is Friday now. Kicking off at the 1:30 with the Triumph Hurdle, a Grade 1 over 2 miles. And this is a brilliant renewal, I think. I think the top 3 in the market, obviously this is all 4-year-olds, so horses with big future. The top 3 dominate it, and understandably so. The selection is Vauban for Willie Mullins and Paul Townend. On debut, just got beat on the line by the reopposing Pied Piper at Punchestown. What I would say that day, he made a shocking error at the last. But what was more impressive was the ground he made up after the last and was running on at the line. Really running on well at the line, and 10 yards past the line, he was in the lead. He was a bit green in the last when it came under to the business end. The mistake was a bit of a novice mistake, which is understandable as a novice, but he really saw the race out well and ran through the line. Pied Piper's gone on and won again since, so he's done nothing wrong. But then Vauban, when he went after that run on debut on New Year's Eve, he went to the Dublin Racing Festival in the February, and he was brilliant, and he absolutely smashed with ease the reopposing Phil Dore by 3 lengths. Don't get me wrong, that puts Phil Dore right there, and also Il Était Temps as well for Willie Mullins was only 2.5 lengths behind. He reopposes here, but what it was with that one looked like he was more one pace than the other two, so I wouldn't expect him to turn the form on him. But on that, Vauban does hold Phil Dore, but Phil Dore's done nothing wrong, and even since then, before that, he had put up a 3. He had put up 3 really good wins before that, including in graded races. Davy Russell seems to have picked that one, which is interesting because him and Pied Piper run in the same colours. But Jack Kennedy did get on well with Pied Piper, so it's not surprising he's picked that one. But with Vauban, what I think it was, he looked so much more professional the next time. He travelled sweetly through the race at Leopardstown, as it had a good bit of depth to it. But what I liked is he led going to the last and carried on finding and pulled right away. Interestingly enough, when he came second on debut, he only got beaten half length by Pied Piper. They were 15 lengths clear of a horse called HMS Seahorse. And HMS Seahorse in the Fred Winter yesterday came fourth, only beaten 4.5 lengths. So the form has been well and truly franked. And those top 4 in the market dominating, understandably so. At a bigger price, Night Salute for Milton Harris is 5 for 5. Won 3 grade 2s, but how good a grade 2 they are, we don't know. But that one is, even Milton Harris said in an interview today, this one's a street fighter. So I think he'd need a lot more rain, and I think he'll run a decent race at 16-1, as will Porticello as well, who he has a form tie with. But I just think the front 3 or 4 in the market just have too much, to be honest with you. And I love, as everyone knows, I love form lines, and these are all incestuously linked, for one of a word, form lines. But I do think Vauban is destined to go straight to the top of this field. Willie Mullins as well is all winter has spoke about this horse even before it got on track. And I expect him to add another triumph hurdle for Willie Mullins. 1, 2, 3 then, Vauban from Pied Piper and Fildor. On to the 2:10 now, which is the county handicap hurdle. It's a 2-mile grade 3, and it's a race that could literally throw up anything. The favourite for me could be thrown in, but at 5-2 is too short, and that is State Man for Willie Mullins and Paul Townend. Fell on seasonal reappearance at Leopardstown on Boxing Day. Came down in that race. I watched it back, and it was just a... I wouldn't say it was a tired fall. It was just almost like a novice-y mistake, it looked like. But he had every chance. But a fall is still a fall. Came out at Limerick a few weeks later for a maiden hurdle. Won as he liked, but he was 1-7 against a load of horses that have never won and not gone on to anything. But off 11 stone 1, could be thrown in. But for me, 5-2 in such a competitive handicap is too short. Colonel Mustard is interesting for Lorna Fowler, Connor Orr taking the ride. This horse has been placed in graded novice hurdles the last twice. Do you know what though? Sometimes it doesn't translate to handicaps. So he's got a nice enough mark. But, you know, sometimes there could be something lurking there. The 4 horses that beat him though, 3 Stripe Life and Sir Gerhardt. So put that in. They became 1 and 2 in the race yesterday. So you could argue that was a decent run for all. He was beaten 12 lengths. Off 11 stone, I'd rather be backing him for definite than the favourite at this moment in time. West Cork is potentially very interesting for the Skeltons here. Again, off 11 stone 1. He won the Greatwood in November, though that's not always a great trial for this. But as you saw with Cool Cody today, he won a race at the Paddy Power Gold Cup, went off the boil a bit, and then came back and won at the festival today, and credit to him. My concern is this: Adagio was terrible in the champion hurdle. Camp Round was a bit further down the field, but he run a decent race yesterday, and Marie's Rock came down. So it's weird. The form with Adagio is not good, but the rest of them is. So did Adagio just run below par? Given him the benefit of the doubt, and helped Skeltons love a handicap, and he's won this race several times as well. The late Mohamed also stands out on this, so he could have a chance. Top Bandit has run well here for Gordon Elliott in the past and won here in the past, and it also has a lovely weight, but this seems to be a lot harder. A horse I really like is I Like to Move It for Nigel and Sam Twiston Davis. Lovely mark off 11 stone 2, beaten a short head in the Betfair hurdle. Now that is a proper handicap, that, isn't it? But what is more important for me is at the start of this season, came to Cheltenham twice in the space of 3 weeks and won both times, both at this trip. The slight concern is all of his known form is on better ground, though he did win a bumper, which he should have anyway, on soft on debut. But what I do like is that Betfair hurdle, that is a big field handicap, and he handled the conditions really well. Glory and Fortune came mid-division, probably outrun his odds in the champion hurdle. First Street for Nicky Henderson hasn't really come out since. Well, he hasn't come out since, so it's hard to know, but it's interesting. He reopposes here off a worse mark with I Like to Move It. So for that reason, I think I Like to Move It has still got the beating of that horse. I Like to Move It didn't seem to enjoy Ascot going right-handed. He definitely seems to be better going left-handed. And I think he's got a very, very good chance at the weight. As I said, this is a race. You could put a word in for many things. Now, this is the horse that I think will hit the frame at 33-1. And I'm going to be having a saver on it. And that horse is Broomfield Berg for Nicky Henderson, with John Joe O'Neill Jr. taking the ride. He only came 7th in the Betfair, but that race turned into a sprint despite the big field. But what I liked is his run at Kempton at Christmas. I know he was only 1-3 for a novice handicap hurdle, but what I liked on that one is just extended and looked really, really impressive. It wasn't the best time and had to make his own running, but it was good. At Newbury, again, they went slow and did a lot of the best work late on. But go back to December at Cheltenham, he ran in a Class 3 handicap hurdle and only got beaten half a length, but took a keen hold again off a slow pace, but run on like an absolute train. I think with a faster pace here, this horse could outrun his odds. Now, since that run, Lively Citizen, who beat it that day, went to Leicester for the Golden Miller Handicap and won that really well by half a length, but then went to Sandown last weekend for the Imperial Cup and came second. Okay, Surprise Package won it easily that day in reopposes here. I don't think he's going to get ground as soft as he wants, but I just think at 33-1, Bloomfield Berg getting in off 10 stone 8, I can't see him not making the frame, but likely to be slightly not good enough. But for the win, I am going to take a punt on. I like to move it for the Twiston Davises. I like the bigger ground field. He's got a 28% strike rate now, Twiston Davises, which is looking good. And I just fancy him to outsee Colonel Mustard here. So 1, 2, 3 then is I like to move it from Colonel Mustard, and it's not much between for the other place, West Cork, but and Bloomfield Berg, but I'm going to put Broomfield Berg in for the 3rd place. On to the 250 now, and this is another Grade 1. It's the Albert Bartlett Grade 1 Novices Hurdle over 3 mile, and this is potentially a brilliant renewal of this race. The favourite, understandably, is Ginto or Ginto, however you want to call it. It's interesting that this horse was earmarked all week for the Ballymore and then came for this. I do wonder if it's not so much the longer trip or if they just knew they couldn't beat Sir Gerhardt, which anyone could do. But this horse is unbeaten over hurdles since he started in November. He won a very basic maiden hurdle very well. And then he came out to a much better race at Navan again. The time out, stepped up to 2.5. Won a Grade 2, beating Eric Bloodaxe. That was a very, very good piece of form, that actually. Eric Bloodaxe was a very decent novice hurdler, bumper winner. Hasn't really gone to plan over hurdles, but has some decent form in the book. The step up to 3 mile on this should be very good indeed for him based on his latest run at Nace. That was in a Grade 1 and he basically made all and stayed on well. The concern would be, can he get like an uncontested lead? He seems better on the lead, and that form wasn't Frank. He beat Grand Jury that day, who came down the field a bit. Now, the pick is Hillcrest for Henry Daly and Richard Patrick, because this horse is absolutely guaranteed to get this trip. 3 mile 1 at Haydock for the Albert Bartlett. Basically, it's another Albert Bartlett named race. It's almost a trial for this at Haydock, even money and heavy going, won by 8 lengths. Absolutely jumped novice to start with, but really, really knuckled down, and his jumping got better as the race went. And the order of the day with this horse is stamina. Now, Crystal Glory, we beat that day, won a decent novice race at Newcastle earlier in the season. Hillcrest's only blot on his copybook was when he unseated his rider here over 2.5 mile. But I don't blame him for it for a novice. A horse fell in front of him, he jinked and ended up unseating. But on New Year's Day, Hillcrest ran in the Ballymore listed race here and won really, really well, despite, again, some novice jumping. This horse is all about stamina, and I think with the rain in the ground, even though it's not as bad today on the new course, and the 3 mile trip, I think he holds Ginto here. But as the betting suggests, 5-2 to 3-1. There is nothing between them. It's hard to make a case for the rest of them. Minella Kakuna is in here. Grade 1 winner latest for Willie Mullins and Paul Townend. But I think it was a bit of a weak Grade 1 potentially at Leopardstown that time. beat Manella Crooner, who I suppose was well fancied for a race before he got injured at the festival. But I don't know, there's just something about the form doesn't seem good enough for it. And to be honest, it's hard to make a case for anything else. It's riddled with winners. I like Ramillies for Willie Mullins as well, because that champion bumper form from last year is really turning out well. But there's a lot of horses that would need a real, shock upset to go and take part in this. So I think the safest thing is to look towards the head of the market. And I'm very, very happy with Hillcrest. He's almost the bet of the day, to be honest. So 1, 2, 3 for the 250, Hillcrest from Ginto, and I'd put Manella Kakuna in there as well. Now we're on to the big one. It's the 3:30. It's arguably the highlight of the week. It's the Cheltenham Gold Cup. 3 mile, 2 furlongs, grade 1. And what a renewal we've got here, with no fewer than 3 horses now separated by 1 point in the betting. At the time of this video, co-7-2 favourites are Galvin and Aplutar. Starting with Aplutar, I tipped it up for the Gold Cup last year. Ran an absolute blinder, but just bumped into one. He's shown in the Betfair Chase at Haydock earlier this season, he is an absolute high-quality, top-class horse. But the form of that has a suspect element to it. Bristol de Mai never went, and to be honest, is looking at back number now. Waiting patiently, pulled up and is now retired. Clondor Castle has been beaten out of sight many times. And Royal Pagaille, while he's going well here, the ground was good to soft that day, and it wasn't good enough for him. This is going to be soft. And last year, I just got the impression that Aplutar was outpointed by Manella Rindo. Okay, he's 8 now, another year older, and he has got the form. But if the ground is on the soft side, that would be a worry. The ground and the going is going to be no danger at all for Galvin, for Gordon Elliott and Davy Russell. Now, this is one of the success stories of the season, it's got to be said, because 12 months ago, he actually won the 4 mile of the National Hunt Chase by a length and a half, Galvin. And that was considered a very, very good performance, and I tipped it up, so I should think it was. So, yeah, so that's a good one, but no one, I don't think, could have expected him from there. He was roughed off for the season after that, came back at Punchestown in October in a grade 3, and just got up to beat Animix and Brahma Bull. Now, the form of that's been pretty badly let down, but one piece of form you cannot say has let it down was the next 2. He went to Down Royal on the 30th of October for the Champion Chase and just got outpointed by Frodon. Now, the difference was that day he was ridden with more constraint, and I don't think he likes it. I think this horse likes to get on with it. But he proved he could still ride like that when he run down the re-opposing Aplutard on the line in the Savills Chase. Now, again, how much that form's worth, I don't know, with the likes of Kemboy proving a bit of a back number now. Mellon disappointing today. Janadil, a fortuitous long-distance second, you'd have to say, to Allaho. And so how good the form is, I don't know. But you can only beat what's in front, and if this is run at a gallop, it's going to suit Galvin. But for the selection, I'm going for another champion to defend, and I am going with Manella Rindo, because Manella Rindo is a bit of a slow burner here. When he won the Gold Cup last year, look at the 3 runs that he had that season. The time before that, at the Dublin Racing Festival in the Gold Cup, Manella Rindo came 4th, beaten about 6 lengths. And that is not what you would think was Gold Cup form. The time before that, he had fallen. And the race before that, he won at 2-11 and literally a nothing chase. This season, he came back in that race behind Frodon and Galvin in 3rd, but the race didn't run to suit. Ignore his run at Kempton. He hated going around Kempton, and the horse was found to not be right afterwards. He didn't travel particularly well at any point. But it's his latest second behind Conflated in the Irish Gold Cup. He was not given a hard time at all. He was never fully extended. He was never tried with, it's got to be said. Now, Conflated won that day, and Conflated was 5 lengths down in second when he fell 2 out today in the Ryanair. He wouldn't have won, he would have got placed, but proved he wanted a longer trip. But Manella Rindo is being slowly brought along for this, much in the way that 2-time champion Al Boum Photo's been. Al Boum Photo this year has only had his 2 runs, got beat on first time out, which was a bit of a shock, and then one run in the usual race he wins and nothing more. That he does have a tendency of making mistakes though, and that will be a concern for Album Photo. Protectorat could be the fly in the ointment for the Skeltons. Won really well when I was there at Aintree over 3 mile 1 and kept on finding. It was a brilliant effort, but he was unbelievably free throughout, and that would have to be a huge concern for me. When he reappeared at Cheltenham this year over this course in the Paddy Gold Cup, he came second. He was held and he run on well, but he just didn't have enough in the finish, and that is the concern. Especially that was over 2.5, over 3 mile 2. Will he have enough in the finish? Royal Pagal is running really well. Disappointed in this race last year. I don't think the ground's soft enough. Tornado Flyer, there's been money for this all week. Was strong at the finish to win the King George on Boxing Day, though I'm still not sure he would have held off Asterion Forlonge. But 3 mile 2 around Cheltenham is totally different to 3 mile dead on a flat track at Kempton going right-handed. Chantry House seems to be one of those horses that flatters to deceive, and I don't know, there's doubts creeping in about this one after he was pulled up in the King George. He then won an easy race, and then from there didn't show anything really. Asterion Forlonge has horrible jumping problem, and I think this trip is just going to be a bit too long for him, if I'm going to be honest. Outside of that, Santini, my old mate, had tipped him up in this 2 years ago and came second, but he's 10 years old now. He's moved to Polygundry. It was a much, much better effort latest, the last time he run, which was actually in the Cotswold Chase behind Chantry House. Stayed on, but I just think, again, he needs an extreme trip, and I hope they target this one at the Grand National. And I Right is completely outclassed in this level. It'll be a Norton's coin if this one goes and wins. But going back for the win, I am happy with Minella Indo. He's proven twice. He was just chinned on the line by Champ in the RSA, came back and won the Gold Cup. He's definitely a spring horse as well. Look through his career, this time of year is the time of year for him. And I just think at 5-1, he could be an each way bet to nothing with bookies playing top 4. He races prominent, he doesn't have to lead, and I think he's going to get a nice lead here. 1, 2, 3 then for the Cheltenham Gold Cup, Minella Indo from Galvin and Aplutard. The 410 is the Festival Challenge Cup with Hunter Chase. It's basically the Amateur Riders Gold Cup over 3 mile 2. Billaway is back again, twice runner-up in this race and got chinned on the line for us last year. Willie and Patrick Mullins combined, and I just got a feeling that he's going to get chinned again. I hate to say it here. It's something about this race. He just doesn't fully see it out at the line. He's running some decent races this year, won well, but you'd expect him to win well. This just looks a higher class race. Winged Leader actually beat Billaway earlier this season, and the only concern I've got about this one is that he has no course form. For all he's looked a very, very good stayer in points, and under rules latest, he beat Billaway fair and square by 12 lengths. But is he good enough? That's the question. I think he might be. Dubai Quest is interesting. He used to be a very good horse in his younger days, but it seemed to have taken really, really well to Hunter Chasing. He was very, very good in point-to-point, I should say. He hasn't really had much run under rules. In fact, he's only had one run under rules, which is the slight doubt about it. It was our Open Hunter Chase at Wetherby, and it was a race where only 2 horses finished. So how good that form is, it's very much open for debate. Ponteven was very good for Willie Mullins, and he's come for Hunter Chaser now and is looking good. But if he was anything half decent, you think Willie Mullins would have kept hold of him and run him in better races, but he hasn't. Cousin Pascal won the Fox Hunter at Aintree last year. Now that's got to be said. That's got usually a very good piece of form. Been running in point-to-point since with mixed results, but did qualify for this with a win at Haydock, beating a horse who I actually really fancy in this, called Bob & Co. And we'll get to Bob & Co in a minute. One more I want to mention at a big price is It Came to Pass. He won this 2 years ago and was all for money again last year, but he's not shown a great deal. But as you saw with Cool Cody today, he might bounce back to form. The horse selection is, though, for this, Paul Nicholls, Bob & Co. David Maxwell owns this and is taking the ride. The reason for it was his run in this race last year. He was absolutely cruising over everybody in this. until 3 out, and he unseated, and it was just, the annoying part is it was a silly, it wasn't even a fall or an unseat, he just stumbled on landing. He was going really well though, he had hit a lower, looked at it just over even money and running, and he came down. And bearing in mind, last year I think was a stronger renewal with this. Billoway was here younger. Staker Wallace, who's gone and won a decent handicap in Ireland. Hazel Hill, multi-winner of this race. This year doesn't look as strong as that. And I just think Bob & Co is another one that's been... he's been brought along slowly. Yes, he got beaten in his warm-up race at Haydock last time, but it was his first run for 10 months and Cousin Pascal had been kept fresh. So I think he holds the form. At 6-1, I think Bob & Co is the percentage call here. Again, with many bookmakers paying top 4 or top 5. 1, 2, 3 then for the Fox Hunter Chase, Bob & Co from Billoway and Cousin Pascal. On to the 450 now, which is the Paddy Power Mears Chase. It's now registered as the Libertine Mears Chase. And this is a brilliant renewal. And I think on all known form, it's, even though it's a small field, you can put a line through 3 of the outsiders, which is Scarlet Dove, Pink Legend and Maid O'Malley. They've shown absolutely nothing this year, and it would take a huge turnaround in form. Vienna Court as well, won here in a handicap over course and distance, but this is a lot stronger off level weights. Zambella as well has landed a couple of Mears races this season, but again in handicaps, this is completely different. Now, the top 3 in the market are all very good horses. Mount Ida to start with. Mount Ida won at the festival last year in the Kim Muir, which was the last race of today. What I found interesting about this is he made a lot of mistakes, but was so strong in the finish and ended up, there was a lot of money for it, and he won it comfortably, giving weight away to some decent horses. Mount Ida. He then went to Fairy House a few weeks later and couldn't quite follow up. It's got to be said, he couldn't quite follow up, and he was actually beaten that day by Ellie May. Now, Ellie May reopposes here, and Ellie May actually got beaten on pretty much on the line in this race last year by a horse called Colreevy, who she turned out to be a very good horse. She ran one more time after this at Punchestown and won, beating Monkfish of all horses. Monkfish was a very decent horse, obviously missed the season through injury. So that form for Ellie May is very strong, and that form ties into Mount Ida as well. Now, look at Mount Ida's run at Fairy House in January. She beat Ellie May that year, but Ellie May was receiving £3. This time, they're running off level weight, so Mount Ida holds it. But for the selection, I'm actually going for Concertista. This run 3 times at the festival. She came second on her first attempt at the festival. This was back in 2019. She contested the Dawn Run Mears Hurdle and got beat on the line when completely unfancied at 66-1. That was her first ever appearance, basically, on this side of the water. Well, her first appearance in Britain, and then she went from strength to strength there. She then came forward a year later for the Dawn Run Novices and won by 12 lengths. A brilliant performance. One of the best ones you'll see around Cheltenham. Last year, came here and went for the David Nicholson over 2.5 miles. Midfield, led all the way on the home turn and just got chinned on the line by Black Tears. Very good horses in behind, Roxana and Indefatigable as well. So that form is good. Since then, she's gone and turned her attention to chasing. She's had 2 chases and won both of them. She won at Cork quite cosily, it's got to be said. Very novice-y, but making your debut in a grade 2 over 2 miles, which is it's quite difficult to be done. A very quick 2 miles for a horse who's shown stamina for 2 mile 4. That was impressive. Next time out, went to Limerick just over Christmas in the grade 2, also called the Dawn Run Mears Novices Chase, and won very easy. Some novice-y mistakes still, but looked to have bags more over a longer trip. Ellie May races prominently. Mount Ida is known to sometimes be prominent, but will be doing the best work late. I just think this is going to set up for Concertista here. I know she's got a £3 penalty over all the others, but that's just because of the quality she's shown. And Concertista now actually 4-1 with Sky Bet. That's the percentage call for me. Especially you could have a sleaze each way bet there and practically get your money back. and it would be a shock if she doesn't get there. 1, 2, 3 then for the Libertine Mears Chase, Concertista from Mount Ida, and Ellie May. Which now brings us to the 7th race of day 4, the 28th race and final race of the festival. And as always, it's the Martin Pipe Conditional Jockeys Handicap Hurdle, 2 mile 4. And to be honest, I wish they had finished the festival on a better race. It's an amateur rider's cavalry charge, and it always throws up a result. What I would say is, though, I do like Langadan for Dan Skelton, Lorcan Merton taking the ride. This horse, last March, I actually tipped it up, if you remember, in this race. And he came second, and I was cursing the rider, left it too late, ran on really, really well to go down by 2 lengths. The key is, look who won that race by 2 lengths. It was Galloping Deschamps, who would have absolutely cruised in today in the plate and is now up there towards the head of the market to be favourite for the Gold Cup next year. That is proper solid form, that. This horse as well, like Soft Ground, because right before the festival, he absolutely destroyed them in the Imperial Cup. I tipped it up on the WhatsApp service as well that day. And he's good, he liked it. Now, the one thing with this horse is he always needs his comeback run. You saw it in the 2020 season, came 9th on his comeback run, and this season came last at Taunton on fast ground, right-handed, which doesn't really bother him, but he's better left-handed, over a trip too short. That would have put him absolutely bang on for this, and off 11 stone 3, and a strong pace guaranteed, and Lorcan Williams, it's not like an amateur riding him. This is someone who's used to riding this horse. I think he could be thrown in off basically a £2 lower mark than last year. Adamantly Chosen is interesting for Willie Mullins, but all of his forms at 2 mile, the step up to 2.5 is a bit of an unknown, and he does have a big weight for all he is. Got a very solid record. You could set you watch that horse, he will hit the frame. Hollow Games has come 3rd in a couple of Grade 1 hurdles, which, to be honest, that's actually quite good going, to be honest with you. And interestingly enough, he was actually favourite, and that race he was beaten. Hollow Games was beaten about 3.5 lengths, but for me, he didn't fully get the 3 mile. This 2.5 with a hill will be right up at the top end of his field. I think for all he's won over 2 mile, it's been easier to 3 miles. Sorry, it's been easier than this, so that's a slight worry for Hollow Games. One I do like here is Banbridge for Joseph O'Brien and Mark McDonough taking the ride. He's 3 from 5 over hurdles, very consistent, and has won over 2.5 mile in the summer at Roscommon in Soft, doing great work towards the end. My concern is this horse has been on the go a hell of a long time over the summer, and I think some might be fresh. The danger to the selection, I think, is actually the Goffer for Gordon Elliott. Sam Ewing taking the ride, and I really rate this young jockey. He's improving novice, and novices have a good record in this race. He's improving all the time, and last time out at Thurles, produced a really good performance to win a Grade 3. Challenged all the way up the state, but kept finding more. Beat Captain Combi that day, who's been a previous graded winner, and Berkshire Royal came 2nd for Willie Mullins. Berkshire Royal before then finished off last season winning a very good race from a horse called Homme de Soin for Gordon Elliott. It was Denise Foster at the time. That's very solid. 2.5 miles seems the trip. 11 stone 6 is a decent race, and I think he's got a very good chance. Grand Jury was pitched into Grade 1 company last time, and to be honest with you, was beaten out of sight at Leopardstown. The worry as well is on that one is the form hasn't yet to be tested, so how good that is, we don't know. And the time before that at Nace, he came 2nd to Ginto. So again, what do we know? We don't know anything. We'll find out. But Grand Jury's form ties in very closely with Hollow Games. So if you like Hollow Games, you'd have to back Grand Jury, which is over double the price. The only other one I can slightly make a case for, but again, you're finding a reason for it, is the Very Man for John Harrington. Conor Orr taking the ride again, another capable young rider. This one won at the end of January at Navan, a Grade B as they have it in Ireland, but won it very well. by a length and a half, but was 20-1 outside of that day, and his 2 runs before it were pulled up at Leopardstown and down the field again. So there's a lot to take on trust, and he does have top weight. For all he could potentially be the classiest horse in the race. But for the win, I am actually going for the marginal current favourite, 11-2 now, Languedan. I think he was unlucky last year. He definitely bumped into one based on lines of form, which is what I'm all about. And I fancy Languedan to get the job done for favourite backers in the last. 1, 2, 3 then for the closing Martin Pipe conditional hurdle. Languedan I'm putting in Languedan from the Goffer, and I'm also gonna put in it's anyone's race for third. I'm gonna put in Hollow Games because he does have that Grade 1 form. Okay, guys, we're done for another year. There we go. 28 races will have gone by this time tomorrow. Been a brilliant festival. We've made good hay, haven't we? We've had a good few winners, a good few. Some at a good price, some good price each ways, and I hope you found it useful as always. I've really enjoyed making these, and do you know what? I'm actually thinking if you ask nicely, I might even do it for Aintree. If you want it, let me know. Let's see what we can do. All right, guys, good luck on the last day. Take care. See you again. Bye.